What's good? What's good? Good morning. The subject of this video is not good, but I'm not holding back. I'm gonna jump in. This video was inspired by the Austin Humphrey, who was murdered in cold blood by a young black man named, I think, like Carmelo Anthony. And there's so much I want to say, and I want to try and navigate it properly. First of all, my condolences to Austin's family. That young man should not have died. Absolutely should not have died. He died as a result of, or resulting from, the very ghetto, hood, trash, black culture that we have as a large subsect of popular culture, and is extremely deleterious to our society as a whole. What the origins of the ghetto, trashy, black hood culture are, in my opinion, are in fact systemic racism. However, that does not justify the murder of an innocent young man. There may have been a little tussle, from what it sounds like. A little tussle, though. Like, you do not escalate a little tussle to fucking murder, in my opinion. But that's what the ghetto, black, trash, hood community has been programmed to believe. They have been programmed for the last, let's say, 2025? 80-ish years or so. So let me get to the origins real quick. After slavery was ended, and as the black community was benefiting from Reconstruction and from finally being somewhat free, the powers that be were like, oh no, we can't have this. We can't have white and black people getting along. That would be horrible for our game of divide and conquer. So what did they do? The social engineers, this started, I think, 30s and 40s. I can't give an exact date. I'm sorry. Someone out there could, and I would like to meet them and talk to them more about this. But starting roughly the 30s or the 40s, liberal, feminist women working as social workers. How funny is that? Social engineers and social workers. Working as social workers, these women told the African-American women, the black women, that they would get more benefits from the government, more money, more resources, more help, more aid from the government if they stayed single, if they did not marry their men, if they did not marry their baby daddies. And in fact, they would get more benefits based on how many children that they have. And this absolutely destroyed the black community. They were doing great. They were on their way up. They were like, yes, moving on up to the east side. Or that's the Jeffersons theme song, I think. But when they removed, predominantly, not entirely, but predominantly removed the fathers from the homes of these black families, they destroyed the culture. Absolutely destroyed it. And this has been going on for decades. This is not like it's a new thing, but there have been other efforts in conjunction with the destabilization of the nuclear family within the black community. We have things like the Creative Arts Agency, which is just an arm of the CIA, essentially, the Central Intelligence Agency. And so a lot of our mainstream content is curated for us by the propagandists and the social engineers. So earlier, when I had said that there was this sort of subsect of popular culture that highlights the degeneracy of modern black communities, that's intentional. That perpetuates the problem. That perpetuates the stereotypes. That perpetuates the issues. I'm going to pause real quick. So we have a group of people, a community of people who have no fathers in the home, who popular media is intentionally misrepresenting their culture to influence their culture in a negative way. And then let's throw in the whole CIA funding drug wars and flooding the inner city streets of predominantly minority communities with crack cocaine. And that was, I think, was that the 80s or 90s? So they took the father out of the home. They created an inaccurate representation of the black community in the media to influence in this negative direction. And then they even further destroyed the communities with crack cocaine. And those aren't the only things that they have done. Those are just sort of the big things I can think of right now for the sake of this video. But after 80 years of negatively influencing the black population, we end up in this world where 50% of crimes are committed by 13% of the population. 13% the black people, right? And I know this is super, super uncomfortable to talk about, but it has to be talked about. We live in this reality because the black community has been systematically oppressed for centuries. There may have been a very small window of time where they have not been oppressed. And so I don't disregard this whole notion of systematic racism. I totally believe systematic racism is real, but it is one facet of an overarching effort to systematically oppress people in general. And that's the thing, is that if we have all these different pockets and groups of people being systematically oppressed in one way or another way, it creates all of this divide and conquer within the population. So you could say that, like, you know, white people who pay more in taxes than the black people do, they're being oppressed because they're having more of their money stolen from them to then fund these horrible programs that don't actually help the black community. So black community people are being oppressed, white community people are being oppressed, Mexicans, Asian people are being oppressed, you know, having to get higher test scores to get into colleges, like, you know, stuff like that. And so we do not at all live in a world of equality. Not even close. Not even close. But the social engineers have done a fantastic job at using this notion or this concept of equality and now equity. That's just the next level of all of this consolidation and control efforts. Is equality is no longer the tool that they use to beat us with. Now it's equity. And so, one more pause. And so all these groups of people are being oppressed in different ways and shapes and directions. And instead of us saying, hey, I see how you're being fucked, you see how I'm being fucked, why don't we just, like, address the people above us who are fucking us? The social engineers, the politicians, the CEOs that are in bed with the politicians, the oligarchs, as I call them, the ruling class. They don't care about white people. They don't care about black people. They care about their people. Their people. So, like, their families and maybe some of their friends, their in-groups, but in general, these evil, narcissistic, power-hungry, pedophilic, ruling class oligarchs, they don't care about society. They care about power. They care about control. They want resources, they want power, they want control, and they don't care if they have to systematically disrupt the entire African American community to accomplish their objectives. They don't care if they have to pit white people against black people. In fact, they love that shit because it makes their job so much easier. And that is what we need to move past, is white versus black. And even when I talk about, like, the crime statistics I brought up, I'm not bringing that up to, like, say black people are bad. I'm bringing that up to say that's what happens when you destroy a family, when you flood a community with crack cocaine, and when you bastardize their culture. So I think I'm going to wrap up the video there. Hopefully I didn't trigger you too much, but I maybe inspired you to think a little bit. and to figure out how to have this conversation that is so necessary to have as a society. Much love, y'all.